Thank you so much for being here on the All Bets Are Off podcast, man. It's great to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate you.
Now, I want to get right into the most recent news, and that would be your new single. So I'm actually going to let you take it away, introduce the song, and tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, sir. Back on June 4th, I released my first single from my kind of solo project, my South Hall 5 project, and it's called Holy Fire. It's a song that was inspired a few years ago during COVID time, as a lot of people were inspired during that time, I think, just because we had not much else to do. And I like to say that the Holy Spirit kind of visited me during that time and inspired me with probably about four songs, and this is one of those songs that came a little later after the first four initial songs. And Holy Fire is something I'm really proud of. It's about becoming a new person in Christ and becoming a new creation because you don't like who you were before and you want to be changed from the inside out. And it's for people that have struggled in their life to be the person that they want to be, and putting their faith in something bigger than themselves to do that change for them. So that's what that song is about, and it relates to me in that way, and I'm so thankful to be a vessel to be used to make that song, and I'm truly thankful to share it with all my fellow friends and musicians and all that sort of stuff. So it's a great time, and I'm so glad that I was able to write it and release it.
Well, now let's stay on that topic for a second because brand new release and all that. So this is a single, but is there a full length album coming, or what's the plan?
Well, so my plan is that I would release all my songs as singles because I've heard, and I haven't done this very much, but I've heard that as an unknown artist, it is better to release your music as singles because you have more chance to actually get your music in the algorithm and people actually hearing the song.
Mhm.
Because unless I'm a super big and successful artist, most likely I would just get most of my songs skipped if I did a whole album. So I'm planning on releasing them as singles, and then maybe once they're all released, doing like a compilation album and putting them all together in that way to keep it organized.
Okay, cool, very cool. So you mentioned at the start of this that this is like your solo project, and I wanted to bring up Little Ozzy because that is how I briefly met you on the Monsters Rock cruise, and so you're the guitar player for Little Ozzy as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
So why don't you walk us through how that came about for you? How'd you end up playing with Little Ozzy?
Oh man, well, it's a really fun story because when I first met him, it was my first touring experience, and as a musician that loves their craft, it's always your dream to go on tour, especially with a professional band that has any sort of status, which Lynn does,
Mm,
and he's been doing this for 12 years now, being Little Ozzy, and him and my mom actually got married a few years ago. But before that, he had actually spent a Christmas with us back in Virginia, where I'm from,
mhm,
and he needed a keyboard player actually. And I had been taking keyboard lessons for 6 months.
mhm.
And he's like, "You want to play keys for Little Ozzy? Because we have all these songs with these crazy intros for keyboards and such, and I don't want to use backing tracks. And you've been learning piano." So I said, "Yeah, of course." Now, keep in mind, I just started the instrument, and I'm taking all the knowledge that I learned from guitar to piano and
Mhm.
transposing the music that way and using my ear and such. And so, long story short, I'm touring with Lynn all across the East Coast, playing keys with my mom and with his daughter, and we're all in the van traveling. And we did that for probably 8 months.
Mm.
So it was
Wow.
an awesome time because it was my first experience really touring professionally, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I got to ask this just because I know he's involved in it. But are you a wrestling fan too?
I don't have like I haven't been watching it like religiously or anything, but I do know of like certain wrestlers and stuff like that, but I'm not like deep into it like maybe somebody else would be.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. I got you. So let's take it back further than Little Ozzy. Let's take it back further than your new single. Tell me, how did you discover your love for rock and roll?
Well, my dad is also a musician and a singer, and
Mm,
as I was around the house as a kid, he was always playing music, and he had a lot of original music that he would play.
mm,
And he would always inspire me with his songs because he was a very good storyteller. And as a child, you are gravitated towards good stories. And he would read me bedtime stories, but then he would sing as well.
Mhm.
And one day he pulls me aside. He's got YouTube up on our Stone Age computer, so it takes 10 years to load any sort of video on the most basic stuff. And he proceeds to pull up Rooster by Alice in Chains and Jeremy by Pearl Jam. I'm pretty
Mm,
sure Jeremy was the first song I saw. And once I saw the music videos to those two songs, I knew I wanted to do music for life because it made my jaw hit the floor. Just the musicality and the songwriting in those songs, as I had learned and had respect for songwriting from him. So
mhm.
sing such a great song that wasn't his song really inspired me, and that helped me know that I wanted to do music.
Okay, very cool. So, who would you say, either then or now, would be like your Mount Rushmore of your four most inspiring artists?
Now, just artists or guitar players?
Let's do both. Why don't we talk bands and then we'll do guitar players? Let's do separate.
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, I would say the number one for me is actually Creed.
Mm,
Um, I love Creed. I found him a few years ago. Right below that, I would say Alter Bridge,
mhm.
because that's Creed just with a different singer.
Yeah.
And then I really like Alice in Chains, of course. They're one of my big ones. And then you said four or five?
Four. Yeah, yeah.
Four. And then finally, I would say a little bit left field is Royal Blood. They're a really cool band that's actually a two piece, and
Mm.
it's a bass player and a drummer. And they have some of the best rock songs that are out right now, in my opinion, just because of the musicality, but also the catchiness. I love a song that is instantly catchy, and they got several of those. So, Royal Blood for number four.
So if we're talking guitar players, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say Mark Tremonti's in the list.
Yes, 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 sir. He's such a beast, man, and not only that, but he's a great guy too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And Tremonti, I think, is criminally underrated as a guitar player in general. Whether you're talking Creed or Alter Bridge, he doesn't get the credit he deserves for being so creative and so talented. And even his Tremonti does Sinatra. Like the
Yes.
guy is just he's next level. Um,
Yes.
so who would be your following three guitarists beside him?
Well, so I love Mark, but he's my number two.
Mm,
I would say my number one is actually Zach Wild, because nobody sounds like Zach. I love his aggression, but I also love his execution is so clean when he plays. Because usually when people play that fast, it's sloppy. But I love and admire his cleanliness with guitar playing. So I would say Zach Wild, Mark Tremonti. Those are my top two for sure. Um, Trying to think. This is kind of something I haven't really talked about before, but I think Joe Walsh is
mm.
very creative as a guitarist. Just with the way he speaks through the instrument is very unique. So I'd say I'd probably put Joe Walsh up there because he also helped write a lot of the Eagles' big hits when
Hmm.
it comes to guitar and stuff like that. So Joe Walsh, Mark Tremonti, and who else would I say? Um, Oh, Randy Rhoads. How could I forget Randy Rhoads? I mean, that's he's in my top three for sure. Just because the fact that he took classical and turned it into metal is unheard of, and he made his own genre with that. So I'd
Yeah.
say those top four. I would say those are my top four.
So how old were you when you actually got into your first band in general?
I would say I joined School of Rock
Hmm.
when I was like just started playing music, and that was I had my first gig through School of Rock.
Oh, okay.
So I'd say my first band probably was either 13 or 14 because at the end of like a 5 month period, you just play with all your peers.
Yeah.
So that was probably my first band, but my first like personal band was called Moon Illusion. And then we had multiple name changes. And my drummer was like 12, I was 16. And then we had a music instructor who was our bass player.
Mm.
And that was probably around 16 or 17.
Wow. Okay. And you said when you joined School of Rock, that was like when you first started to get into music. So that's about the time you started playing guitar, just in general.
Yeah, yeah, because I went into that and tried out for School of Rock to play guitar.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So, just to backtrack just a little bit, because we already talked about your current single and you talked about releasing more. Do you already have more songs ready to go?
Yes, sir. So I
So,
actually have 7 other songs that
okay.
I'm planning on releasing over the next year. So because of that, I want to kind of take my time in between releases so that I can actually do just give people time to process each song, learn the lyrics, and hopefully, see how it relates to your life.
hmm So when just for our listeners out there who are getting familiar with you, when you're not doing your own music, you are still currently touring with Little Ozzy, correct?
Well, so I'll kind of do selective dates with Lynn because it's kind of here and there when we're out and doing stuff like Monsters of Rock and stuff.
Yeah.
That was really last minute. We actually got called like maybe 2 weeks out from the cruise, so
Yeah.
I didn't really even know we were going to do that. So it was kind of a last minute thing. What I actually do more of in the meantime is I tour with tribute bands.
Oh, okay.
I'm part of a Nirvana tribute, a Linkin Park tribute, and a Creed tribute,
Mm.
and it's all the same band. We just change singers and we change outfits, and we'll do 3 tribute bands in one night.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I'm gathering, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but just from some of the things that you've said, is you're a big fan of grunge.
Yes, absolutely, because that was the music that got me into music to begin with. So because of that, it has always stayed in my musical repertoire,
Mhm.
and it's always inspired me. Just because I'm not I'm not the most depressing kind of guy to be around. I always try to be pretty upbeat, but we
Mhm.
all have those feelings inside of like we wish certain things were a different way, or we
Yeah.
have angst inside. So
Mhm.
grunge has always been that way for me to feel those things without saying it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when we're talking grunge too, the big four, the big five, whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
who's your top? Is it Alice in Chains?
Well, for the band, yes, I would say Alice in Chains, but for the singer, Chris Cornell is my favorite singer of all time.
Oh,
Just
yeah, yeah.
because, and I wouldn't say that Soundgarden has the best songs in my opinion, but
Mhm.
I think that Alice in Chains has the better songs. But Chris had the best voice. So
Yes, yeah. I agree with both of those statements that you just made as far as Alice in Chains and
I
Chris
love it.
Cornell. Um, Chris Cornell specifically, I always considered him an '80s metal singer plucked out of that genre and dropped into the grunge scene,
Yes.
and for whatever reason, it worked. It just
Yes.
worked for them.
Yeah, because if you listen to their first album, like Loud Love and stuff, I'd say that's the closest to '80s rock that they got to. After they
Yes.
went hardcore into grunge and stuff like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think the gap was bridged between the '80s and the grunge scene with Mother Love Bone,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
and I think that Soundgarden kind of like tried to do the same thing, maybe not on purpose, but it just kind of went that way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. He was so versatile. He could do acoustic, he could do '80s rock, he could do grunge. He was just one of the most versatile and wonderful singers I've ever known.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about dream bands that you would like to either play a show with, go on tour with. I'm talking past, present, future. Doesn't matter. Just give me a few bands that come to mind when I say, "Who do you want to hit the road with?"
Well, if I was to tour with this current music right now that I'm trying to release, I really like this artist. His name is Brandon Lake. He's another Christian artist that he actually has a rock edge to him, and I like that a lot because a lot of the music in that genre is contemporary
Mhm.
Christian music, and one of my goals when I released this music is I wanted to make something that sounded more rock and roll, more secular,
Mhm.
but had the content and the I guess the vibe of rock and roll. And that's what's cool about Brandon Lake is he has that edge to him. So I would love to go on tour with Brandon because I feel like him and I would click.
Mhm.
We have a lot of similarities, and we also got a goofy side to both of ourselves, and I think we would relate with in that way too. So Brandon Lake for sure, and then if I was more in the secular world, I would want to do probably Creed if I could because I
Mhm.
know they usually have a lot of cool openers. I know it's bands that have usually been around for a lot longer than I have, but there's always a chance.
Oh, absolutely. And we talked about Creed a bunch, so I also want to kind of shift into are you a Striper fan?
Hmm. Absolutely. I saw Striper actually a few months ago with the music minister at my church. Him and I and our drummer went to go see them at the Florida Theater here in Florida, and they were amazing because they did two separate acts. First act was like their old stuff, and then their second act was to support their new album that had just come out. And they're very versatile, great sounding musicians that love the Lord and are just cool people. So
Yeah, yeah, and they come out with new music constantly. Like
yeah,
every year, I feel like Michael Sweet's like, "Oh, don't forget to get our new stuff,"
yes,
and it's always incredible. And they're one of the few bands that over the years gets better. You
yes,
know, like they're. I mean, not saying that their old stuff wasn't good because it's great, but the
yes.
things that they're doing now are just like, oh my god, like mind blowing, mind blowing.
Absolutely, because I mean, it if you are constantly surrounded with people you've played with that long, that inspire you. I mean, I'd be releasing music all the time too if I had that group around me. So they're blessed to have each other, and I think because of that, they just continue to release bangers. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very excited to say that they're going to be on the Monsters Rock Cruise next year in
Oh
2026.
man, dude, I hope to be on it because also I know Zach is going to be there
Yes.
because and I've never met him, and he's my number one guitar hero. So I mean, I would
Oh
love to
wow.
meet
Yeah.
you, man.
Yeah, that's gonna be an insane cruise, and,
Absolutely, man.
I can't wait. I mean, I've seen Stryper before, but I've never seen Black Label Society, and I'm really pumped to check that out.
Yeah.
So, the next part of this interview is, something that we do when people are on, usually for the first time, and it's a lightning round where I just ask you a bunch of random questions, and it's just for the listeners to get to know you on a different level.
Awesome.
So it's gonna be a series of this or that. So we'll start with, do you prefer New York style or Chicago style pizza?
New York.
Dinner or dessert?
Dessert.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Poison or Motley Crue?
Motley Crue.
All right, this next one could be touchy for you. Let's see how this goes. Ozzy or Alice Cooper?
Ozzy.
How about this? Are you a horror movie fan?
I'm not. I've watched one. It was called Grave Encounters.
Mm,
I watched the first one and the second one. Now I will say it was executed great, but I don't usually partake. No.
all right. Next question. If you were superstitious and you're going through the Bermuda Triangle, are you taking a boat or are you taking a plane, and why?
Ooh. Well, I mean, one of my biggest fears is fears of drowning, and I think if you were to crash and disappear like a lot of people have, I'd rather be in a plane because I would not want to drown. So probably plane.
All right. The last three questions are going to be, first one, favorite movie.
Oh my gosh. You know, for a while it was the Budapest Hotel. It's a kind of obscure movie, but it was really an interesting one. But I'd say my favorite movie is Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. That was just one of the most amazing movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's a great film. How about favorite TV show?
Um, well, I'll tell you. Oh, I know. Breaking Bad for sure.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a great one. And final lightning round question, favorite cartoon?
Oh yeah. Well, Cartoon Network shut down, so that
Yeah.
sucks. But my favorite cartoon one oh SpongeBob. Duh.
All right. So back to you, back to your career, back to your music before we wrap this thing up, is you did mention that there's more songs. Do you have a date or at least a relative time frame for the next one?
Well, so I'm trying to release every single like 6 or 8 weeks apart
Okay.
because I've heard that is the best way to release it to kind of keep everybody engaged.
Mhm.
But I will also be on tour this this next month in Australia, so because of that, I might release it after I come back. So probably every 6 to 8 weeks is the goal.
Do you already know the order of release, or you could just kind of plan it by ear as you go?
I'm kind of playing it by ear because I want to create a niche. I want to create something that people can relate with, and I've always resonated with big, loud, memorable choruses, and I want to implement that in all my music so that people can have something to connect to.
So tell the listeners right now where they could find your current new single.
Well, so it's released everywhere that you stream music. It's just under the name The South Five. Know me as my name, Johnny Lawrence. but I would look it up from the South Hall 5, and it's called Holy Fire. And if you go and follow me on all those platforms, that's where the rest of the music will be released within the next year
All right, perfect.
and over the next year.
How about any upcoming events that you could plug? If there's anything you can't talk about yet, that's fine. But anything that is coming up that you want to throw out there, let's take some time and do that.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm going to be going on tour with my Nirvana tribute is called Nirvana, and we're going on tour to Australia and Indonesia and the Philippines, and I will be gone for the next 2 weeks in July, from about the 7th to the 22nd. So anybody who's out there in the land down under, we'll be there for a week, um, playing all across Australia. And if you'd like to be interested and go and see that, look us up on Facebook. It's called Nirvana, the tribute to Nirvana on Facebook. And that will be what we'll be doing for the next 2 weeks. So be on the lookout for that and follow us there on Facebook.
All right, excellent. And I want you to also, before we get you out of here, to plug your social media so that anybody who doesn't already could start to follow you and keep up with all of the projects that you have, because it sounds like there's quite a few.
Yes, I try to stay busy. As you know, being a musician, you got to do multiple things to make a living, and um, this is one of those many things that I try to do. So on Instagram, I would like everybody to follow me on the South Hall 5. That is on Instagram. And if you would like to be a little bit more personable with me, you can follow me on official Johnny Lawrence on Instagram as well, and just Johnny Lawrence on Facebook. Um, Also, if you like the single and you want to support me, you can buy my song on Bandcamp, because that's a place where they allow a lot of artists to be supported when Spotify and Apple Music can't. So that is a good way to do that. So look me up on there if you'd like to support me with that. And that's that. I think that's what I'm mostly on most of the time. So
All right, excellent, man. Well, thank you so much for being here and doing this. This was fun. And of course, when your next single comes out, we'll be pushing that for you as well. And for anybody who is listening instead of watching the video, they did get a sample of the song at the beginning, and they will get another sample of it at the end of this interview. So if you're interested in that and you're watching, head over to Spotify or Apple or Sirius XM app or wherever you listen to podcasts, and you could actually hear the samples of the song and then go download it.
oh well, thank you so much, Robby, and God bless you, man. Rock on. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Rock on. See ya.